Before we get into it, I just want to say a big thanks to everybody who's been supporting the channel. We're on a quest to our first 1,000 subscribers, and we're trying to get this train rolling. We just like to say a big thanks to everybody who's out there supporting us. Please like, subscribe, and bang that notifications bell so you don't miss our content. We appreciate it as we grow, and we look forward to a long and prosperous journey here. We're here to stay, so let's go. So we're covering Jake Tapper and John Waltz today. Something's breaking and surely not just their narrative. Jake Tapper, he went full heat sinker on Tim Waltz today. This, I'm sure, should have been a softball interview, but it was more like a firing squad. Let's go through these CNN clips they've given us for this highlight reel. Roll the tape.
Hurry up.
So let me ask you, because another group you're in touch with, the United Auto Workers Union, you have a lot of that. They have supported you for years and years and years. They were excited to have you on the Democratic ticket. President Trump argues that these tariffs are needed to bring American manufacturing back and to help American workers left behind in places like Minnesota.
In this next feed, the UAW, the United Auto Workers, they go on CNN to back Trump's tariff moves.
He has support from the UAW. The UAW called his auto tariffs, quote, a long overdue shift away from a harmful economic framework that has devastated the working class. It signals a return to policies that prioritize the workers who build this country rather than the greed of ruthless corporations, unquote.
This is huge, people, because in 2016, the UAW, they hated Donald Trump. But now the story's flipped and turned. Now they're saying they're praising him because his policies on tariffs and those moves are keeping the jobs right here in the United States. This isn't a peon. This isn't some fringe guy. This is leadership live on CNN praising Donald Trump, saying the quiet part, shh, out loud. They finally realized that green revolution, it meant a few things. It meant factory jobs leaving. It meant foreign automakers cashing in that bread. And it also meant Detroit turning into a testing ground for Chinese EV manufacturing. Tariffs aren't anti-worker, they're anti-exploitation. And workers, they finally realize they're tired of being the sacrifice of somebody else's global utopia. If you're the guy turning a wrench in Detroit, you don't care about the climate committees that's going on in Brussels. Why would you? But what you do care about is a job that won't vanish when Beijing squeezes.
I have to say, that sounds a lot like language you would use. What do you say to the UAW?
Yes. It is what I would use. And here's the thing that the Democrats have to figure out. Donald Trump's language around this, he's not wrong that we've had manufacturing gutted. He's not wrong that we saw an outshoring. People of my generation were told, you know, there aren't going to be any manufacturing jobs, so you need to go to college and rack up student loan debt. The problem is Donald Trump's solution to this is not the solution. Now, UAW is right. Certain tariffs, if they're on to steel or if they're targeted correctly, do make a difference. That's not what we're dealing with here.
Imagine thinking you're playing a nice, friendly game of 21, and instead you get crossed up, dunked on, and he gives you the gorilla, and you walk off stammering on national TV. And Waltz, he didn't look stunned. He looked unprepared. He looked unplugged. He looked unhinged. Waltz is the governor of a farming state. You'd think he'd have some type of preparation. He'd have some type of fake answer policy on subsidies, but nope, not at all. Just vibes and filler words. The Democrats, they've turned rural America into a punchline. But guess what? Ignore those people who grow your food and haul your freight, and they'll remember, trust me. Those roots, they might be blue in the city, but that red runs deep into the soil out in those counties. And right now, those roots are voting with their tractors. Check out this next feed of the Democrats' former VP nominee and his party's future.
Don't you think your party needs to acknowledge that President Biden was not up for the job of running for re-election and that this was a major mistake by the
He made that
Democrats?
decision.
I know, but you all went along with
he
the
made that
idea that he was
decision.
up for it, and he wasn't. And everybody saw it, and the country rejected it.
Yeah, well, look, history will tell us to go back on that. That very well could be the case, Jake. What I'm concerned about is learning from those lessons. I would hope we would never do it again, make a mistake, make sure we go through and get someone. But I don't know where it helps us going forward.
Check out this next clip because it deserves a full autopsy. It's rare. I mean, very rare. When a Democrat says the obvious on camera. He didn't say it with pride. He said it with regret. Like someone standing at a dock watching their ship drift away and not being able to do anything about it. They traded steel workers for Starbucks baristas. They replaced town halls with Twitter polls, and then they wondered why they were losing Ohio. Even long-term Democrats know the brand is broken. You can't preach equality while ignoring the economics. And when the suits start waving their white flag like this hat, that ain't strategy, that's survival mode. In this next feed, Walsh is still being pressed about crime, about fentanyl, and about the sanctuary city policies.
It was easy to know what a Democrat was. They stood with the working class and labor. Republicans were country club and for the rich. Today, you ask people, they don't. We have a 29% approval rating.
Yeah.
It doesn't help us any that Donald Trump ends up with a 25% approval rating. We have to get back to the core issues, that this is about making America prosperous and stable and innovative for everybody.
Well, what do you make of the criticism that one of the reasons why your party was so resoundingly rejected last November is because Democrats were gaslighting the country, saying that inflation was not a big deal, heralding Bidenomics. Not only Biden, but Kamala Harris was heralding Bidenomics, pretending that there wasn't a problem at the border. And then fundamentally, this idea that President Biden was up for another 4 years of the job, while Americans in poll after poll for year after year were saying he's too old to do the job. Your party stood against all of those things.
This wasn't an interview. This was a confession, and with lighting. Tapper asked real questions for once, and Walsh looked like he opened up a Word doc that didn't have a save button. You got a state where overdose deaths are climbing, police are resigning, and you're still trying to pretend that sanctuary cities are the hill you want to die on. Walsh, he represents a dangerous formula. Good intentions, terrible outcomes, and zero accountability. They say Minnesota's nice, but if you're a parent burying your child from a fentanyl overdose, there's nothing nice to say about policies that invited the pipeline in. In this next clip, Tim Walsh discusses Kamala's "I'm not here to say I told you so" comment about Trump.
So we heard your former running mate Kamala Harris say she's not here to say I told you so, although obviously that's what she was saying about all the Trump chaos. We're seeing, I have to say though, what does I told you so really mean here? I mean, people heard her message. They did not vote for her. She lost every battleground state. You yourself have criticized the Harris-Walsh campaign for being too cautious. She may have told the American people, she may have warned the American people, but she didn't do it compellingly enough to win.
That is the absolute point. And look, when I criticize, I'm criticizing myself. I own this. I'm part of the ticket. And somebody has to come up with a strategy. I think this is exactly right. This is the thing. Look, Democrats, it was a good night in Wisconsin. I was over there. We saw that happen. Donald Trump's doing this. Just to be clear, nobody on the Democratic side is celebrating this, and those folks in the street are not celebrating that Donald Trump's making all these errors. I think what the vice president's saying is that was pretty self-evident that he was going to do that. I do think the challenge for Democrats, and this is, I think, a structural problem that's going to take a lot more thinking, why, with all of that out there, did they not think we were any better than that? And they didn't.
Kamala's got the gift of being smug, condescending, and irrelevant, all in the same sentence. She says she didn't want to gloat, but then she gloated for 5 straight minutes. It's like watching someone trip over their own ego, and the crowd, they didn't even clap. Kamala's strategy is based on nostalgia and for failure. In the Biden administration, they don't even have a win. The only thing they have is the blame game. And trust me, when voters hear Kamala talk about leadership, they reach for the mute button. In this next feed, Greenblatt talks about the economy being rocky, but manufacturing regaining its confidence.
We absolutely have had a couple people anxious about the stock market. But again, our goal is that we're going to sell millions more dollars, so we have to hire many more people. If we do that, we're going to hire them at very good jobs, with very good pay, wonderful benefits with the 401k match. True, there's some companies that have been buying T-shirts from Vietnam and China, and they're going to have to pay a couple more bucks for a T-shirt. And then the American consumer is going to have to pay more for a T-shirt. That's obviously not pleasant for those American consumers.
Greenblatt gets it. He's not some economist pontificating in a think tank. He actually hires people and builds real things. He basically said if Washington would stop playing God with the interest rates and the ESG nonsense, then the economy would boom again. And who can blame him? Because every time a DC panel launches a new acronym, Main Street loses $5. The key takeaway from this clip is real recovery starts with production, not perception. And the second DC stops punishing its producers, America's economy will fix itself. In this next clip, a steel CEO is thrilled with Trump's tariffs.
But I think there's going to be an overwhelming surge of hiring in America as things level out, as American factories ramp up and people have to hire talent, buy machines. We've invested money in buying new machines because we're so enthusiastic, so optimistic about the future. That's going to start happening throughout the nation, and people are going to be leaning into the future. This is a very exciting time for the American manufacturing worker. We're going to be able to pull people from poverty into the middle class that used to not have an avenue. They had no shot at getting into the middle class. We're going to be able to offer them a shot.
This guy was beaming, and not just for his company, but the entire economy. The gentleman flat out said it. The policies are saving jobs, period. While the elites are crying about inflation and free trade, real Americans want to build something that lasts longer than a TikTok trend. The economy, it doesn't run on feelings. It runs on factories and tariffs done right that'll shield the middle class. This wasn't about policy. This was about pride, and it was long overdue. The bottom line is, people, it has begun. The great realignment has started. This wasn't just a news cycle. This was a glitch in the matrix, just like that cat you see walking through that doorway. CNN platformed a union that loves Trump, a steel worker who loves tariffs, and a governor who got cooked. And Kamala, she couldn't keep a straight face the whole while. The working class is waking up, and they're not buying the globalist gospel anymore. You can't tax them into poverty, lock them down, shame them for being patriots, and then expect them to vote for you. This ain't the red wave, baby. It's more like the red reckoning. And if you listen closely, you can hear the elite panic setting in. If you're tired of the spin, the gaslighting, and the scripted media, smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notifications bell so you don't miss what they're trying to bury. Thank you. God bless.
Listen.